I'm Mike Intronakis, and we are here in Astoria Park, my neighborhood park where I live. And this park is actually quite famous for New York and its history. And some of the story that I'm going to tell you today is not going to be a happy tale. But what's interesting about this channel, it's New York's most turbulent channel, one of the most turbulent channels in U.S. history, in the U.S. It's called Hell Gate, and Hell Gate is really a derivative of a Dutch word meaning clear opening, but not hell in that sense. But what I am going to tell you is, well, first I'll start with the Indians that have lived here. This part was a Native American village, an Indian village over there in Pot Cove, where they actually grew maize and fished. And in the 1700s also a frigate sank here, and $5 million worth of cargo sank to the bottom. So there's a treasure that's still yet to be discovered. However, here's the really sad tale to tell. And this was on June 15th of 1904. Little Germany in the Lower East Side of New York had an annual cruise with the steamship General Slocum, and would go on a picnic trip out to Eaton's Neck, Long Island, from 3rd Street in Manhattan. And when they boarded, and this is mostly women and children who went on from this German Lutheran church. When they boarded, at 9:30 a.m. on that Saturday morning, by the time they got to 90th Street over there, the ship was in flames. Somebody had thrown a cigarette or a match down some oily rags down below, and a poor 12-year-old boy was running to the ship's captain to tell him about the fire, and the captain ignored him until later. The flames were already engulfed, and the captain knew about it, and he was close to Manhattan, and he could have run aground there, but he chose not to, and people speculate because of insurance purposes he didn't do so. So what had happened is that they decided to come through this very turbulent channel here of Hell Gate in flames, and the tragedy was women and children had to jump to save for their lives overboard. And in those days, in 1904, women wore very heavy wool clothing, and when they jumped over, it just absorbed, and they sank right to the bottom and drowned. And then the other thing is, mothers were trying to save their children, and they were reaching for this cork-made life preservers, and when they did so, it crumbled in their hands, because since the boat was made for 13 years, it was exposed to the elements, and they just dried out, the cork. But those that were in any condition, they put them on the children, and they threw the children overboard, only to watch the children in horror drowned. So this was an absolute terrible tragedy, and the boat went on and just kept going north here along Hell Gate, and just above us is Hell Gate Bridge, and it ran aground in North Brother Island. But the thing is, 1,021 women and children and some men perished in this terrible, terrible disaster. The worst disaster in New York history up until 9/11. There was nothing worse, and still the second worst maritime disaster for America. So it's a tragic tale about that, but it needs to be noted about it. But this is my neighborhood, and there's a lot more history involved here in Astoria Park, and I'll leave that for another time.